Good morning. Shakespeare said, "Some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them." There are certain situations where greatness comes from unexpected sources. Politically, Abraham Lincoln was everybody's second or third choice. He was a compromise candidate who is easily the greatest president in the United States as events unfolded. I think of sports, Don Larson pitching a perfect game in the 1957 World Series. And in Scripture, there are a lot of places we could go, but Esther is certainly somebody who comes to mind. I want to read to you a few verses out of chapter 4. Esther's uncle and basically the man who raised her, a man named Mordecai, is sending a message to Esther, who is in the king's harem, is now queen of Persia, and there's been an edict by Haman in the king's court to destroy the Jews. They told Mordecai what Esther had said. Basically, she said, "I can't help you because the king hasn't called me to him in over a month." Mordecai told them to reply to Esther, "Do not think to yourself that in the king's palace you will escape any more than all the other Jews. For if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will rise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" Then Esther told them to reply to Mordecai, "Go, gather all the Jews to be found in Susa, and hold a fast on my behalf, and do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my young women will also fast as you do. And then I will go to the king, though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish." Mordecai then went away and did everything as Esther had ordered him. That last verse is especially interesting to me because if you read through this book, you'll find in the opening 4 chapters, Esther is a very passive character. She always does what other people tell her to do, whether it's Mordecai or people in the king's court. But when we get to this point where Esther responds to Mordecai's challenge and says, "Fast, if I perish, I perish," and then it says Mordecai did everything Esther ordered him to do, for the rest of the book onward, Esther is in charge of the action. Greatness was thrust upon her, and she rose to the challenge. I am thankful that in my Facebook feed and a lot of places on the internet these days, there are lots of humorous memes and videos. Saw one that's a spoof off a Les Mis song yesterday. It's totally hilarious. And we need humor and levity and all of that to get through these days that we're in. But it is also okay to have a place to say, these are challenging days, and greatness is going to rise from unexpected places. If you are among those folks that are first responders, whether you're nurses or doctors or ambulance drivers, EMTs, police officers, grocery store clerks, people that are going to work every day and facing the possibility of illness, I want to thank you for dealing with challenging days in a courageous manner. We are going to hear stories in the days ahead of incredibly courageous action from unexpected places. God's name is famously never mentioned in the book of Esther, but his hand is everywhere. And Esther is willing to trust in God's providence as she takes a courageous step to intercede for her people. Friends, I pray that each of us can, in our own ways, look to the Lord to act in an appropriate but courageous way today. Our musical selection, I think, is a great piece that comes from what I consider to be somewhat of an unexpected source. Elgar's Cello Concerto, the first movement. Most of us only know Elgar by something we march to at graduation ceremonies, pomp and circumstance. But the very last piece Elgar wrote is what has come to be considered a classic in the cello repertoire. His wife passed away around the time that he finished this. World War I had devastated Europe right around this time. And he wrote nothing of significance in the last 14 years of his life. But this piece, he poured everything into it. It didn't really receive a very good performance on its first go-round. The cellist was amazing, but apparently the orchestra was not properly prepared. And for really close to 40 years, this piece was almost unperformed. But then in the mid-60s, a 13-year-old girl by the name of Jacqueline Dupre, who was a phenomenal cellist, memorized the score in 4 days and began performing it and lifted it up to the heights that it is enjoyed today. So as we listen to this amazing first movement, I encourage you to consider the ways in which God may move in your heart and life today. God bless you.